Welcome back to Modaufy Garage. On this episode, we're going to diagnose a rough running Ford Falcon. You may have noticed another silver Falcon on my channel that has a Barra engine. And recently what happened to that car was that it developed a really rough idle. So why this is a different car and this car's not, the idle is still perfect on this car. I just wanted to run with you the diagnosis that we performed on the cars to understand exactly what was wrong with it. When something's not right on the car, I like to jump and get my OBD2 reader just to give me an idea of what's happening. So in this case, when I plugged it in, I was getting the code P0356. So according to this manual, it says number 6 ignition coil feedback signal. So that tells me that I've got to get under this cover and I've got to check the spark plugs. I've got to check the ignition coils. I've got to see exactly what's happening there first before I start to have a look at anything else. For the engine to run optimally, you need fuel, spark and air. So the car's running, so I'm going to assume the fuel is correct. The next thing I wanted to do was check the spark plugs, and the spark plugs are under this plastic cover here. Some of you may know how to get to the spark plugs, but others of you may be watching this because you've never done it before. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what I do. So I need to remove this crossover pipe, and then I need to remove this plastic cover here, and this has an Allen, all you need is an Allen key for this, to undo this. So let's get started and let's remove this. Just remember, when you take the plastic cover off, just make sure you put this back in and that back in to stop anything from falling in the engine. So it was at this point, we looked at all the spark plugs, everything was fine. The coils looked fine, but we were unable to test if they were running properly. However, what I did find was when we took out number 2, so when you take out one of these coil packs, ignition coils, you've got these little clips. So you just pull on the little clip and pull it out. Now, the higher the engine, the older the car, the higher kilometers the cars have, these break really easily. So just be really careful. So we removed ignition coil number 1, spark plug number 1. Couldn't see any issues. As soon as I took ignition coil number 2 out, it was covered in oil. Not just a little bit of oil, like a little bit of oil. The whole thing was drenched in it. When I went to put my spark plug removal socket in there to take the spark plug out, I brought it out and the whole socket was actually covered in oil. So that got me thinking that oil being down the hole with the spark could be the reason of the rough idle. And then we went to cylinder number 3. Cylinder number 3, exactly the same. Cylinder 4, better. See, these weren't dry. That's how they should be. Cylinder 4 was good, cylinder 5 was good, and cylinder 6 was good. So we needed to understand if the oil was actually causing the issue of the rough idle. So what we need to do, because we need to fix that oil, it's not right for the oil to be sitting in the cylinder, in the spark plug holes like that, in the head. So we decided to remove the rocket cover. We went to the auto store, picked up a new one, came home, put it all back together, started the car, wiped all the oil down, cleaned everything off, and we still ran into the same issue. The car was still idling really rough. So while it was running, we started to take out one coil, ignition coil at a time. Then I thought, okay, well, maybe this is the issue because there was a couple of them, I can't remember which ones. As soon as I took them out, there was a noticeable difference in the sound of the engine. I jumped online, ordered a brand new set and parked the car up, ordered a brand new set of ignition coils, They came 1 week later. We put them in. I was hopeful that that was going to fix the issue, really hopeful. And turns out that the rough idle continued. So not understanding exactly what was going on, I know we had fuel. We had spark. So the other thing was air. And I have read that the intake manifold gasket can break. So my next solution was I got a bottle of water in a spray bottle. I mixed it with soap, but I don't know if the soap actually helped at all. And so what I started to do, I started to spray it around the intake, where the intake manifold meets the head. So this is the intake manifold. And I'm not sure if this is called the runner, but this is where this attaches to the head of the car. So that's where I'll be spraying the water. I started the car, make sure it's running rough, doesn't matter. What I did, I started spraying on the manifold like that. As soon as I sprayed around the number 1 cylinder, the engine changed straight away. I sprayed around cylinders 2 to 6, no issues. But that number 1 cylinder, every time I put water near it, it changed. When I sprayed around the intake manifold gasket area, where the manifold meets the head, on cylinder number 1, the idle was getting worse every time I sprayed around that area. So I automatically thought that the intake manifold gasket must be broken. Now, because I didn't have the time to fix it, we sent the car to a mechanic to get done, and that fixed the issue. And the car's running perfectly again. This is how I diagnose the rough idle on a Falcon. So my tips: check your spark plugs, check your ignition coils. If you see oil in the where the spark plug sits, it might be a good idea to change them. It's probably going to only happen on high kilometre engines. And then if all that turns out to be fine, check to see if your intake manifold gasket's been cracked. If you like the video, hit that like button. And if you want to see more content from Modaufy Garage, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next video.